Have you ever wanted to feel like, I don't know, a badass? Have you ever wanted to shrug off everything that comes at you just to follow up by ripping the soul of your enemy out of their body through their throat? If that is the case, then I think I might have the build for you. Hello, 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 guys, ladies, gentlemen, others, welcome to the channel. It's your fella Kuro here, and I hope you are having a fantastic day. If you are not having a fantastic day, hopefully this video does a little bit to make that better, because honestly, I just prefer it when you're happy. So, what do we have today? Well, guys, today we have a Stamina Dragonite build, or a Hybrid Dragonite build. Don't know what the hell to call it anymore. ZeniMax is confusing me. I am confused. But I'm calling it a Stam DK, and I'm calling it a tank, a 1vx tank. This thing is so damn fun. It is tanky as shit. It's got everything you might possibly need for survival. It's got everything you might possibly need for putting people down. It's got plenty of damage to help you get through this patch where everyone is just too damn tanky, including you scumbag. Yes, you that might play this build, you are too damn tanky, and yeah, it's just a lot of fun to play. I've been playing it for a couple weeks now. I'm loving it, and you might as well. Before we get into it though, just a couple quick reminders. One, if you are new here, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that that thumbs up button down there. It looks pretty cool, but it looks really cool when it's blue. And if you're not subbed to the channel, consider doing that, because we make a lot of content here, sometimes. And also, if you're not following me on Twitch, do that, because I play games live. I'm going to play this game live today. It's going to be a lot of fun. Is that everything? I think that's everything. So, I'm going to stop shilling myself to you guys now. Let's go ahead and show you the build. Let's get into it. Alright guys, we're just going to go ahead and dive on into the build here. I'm going to buff up my stats as much as I can possibly do by myself to show you guys what the stat sheet's looking like. Keep in mind that this is going for full buffs, right? It's not always going to be like this. This is just if you've played the game perfectly, if everything is going exactly how you want it to be going, you will have stats like this. So let's go ahead. Alright, taking a look real quick here, we got about 27,000 armor, 6,785 is what it was at weapon damage when buffed with the weapon damage enchantment, when we got all of our stacks, when we've got just everything going on for us. That's how much weapon damage we can get to. We can hit just about 7,000 with continuous. Stamina recovery, ooh, I just burped mid-sentence, that's pretty badass. Stamina recovery, 1,000. Health recovery, 1,000. Not really a big deal, but hey, there it is. Just about 700 Magicka recovery. We've got 30k health, 20k max Magicka, and 33.5k max stamina on our sword and board bar, and just about 1,000 less than that on our 2H bar. Dude, I'm feeling so gassy. Why did I decide to drink an entire Dr. Pepper before I started recording? God knows. But anyway, we're just gonna roll with it. Our armor does get higher because we use a blood spawn on this build, and you can also sacrifice a little bit of weapon damage for a little bit of armor here by swapping some medium out for heavy if you want, but I've found the nice comfortable medium for me. You can adjust it how you see fit. We do get 23.4% crit on the sword and board bar. Not a big deal. It's not super important to the build, but it is something to keep in mind. Low pen, but we have corrosive, so it's really not a big deal. Looking at our race and stuff, I am a Imperial. That is the best race for this build, hands down, bar none. You could go Orc for more damage if you want to. You could go Nord if you want to feel a little bit tankier and get some extra ultimate, but honestly, the reduced cost is definitely better for this. And there's just no real arguing against Imperial here. I used to fight against it myself, but I have now been converted to the Imperial gang, so definitely go Imperial. When it comes to food, I'm using Bewitched Sugar Skulls. We'll talk about that later, though. And then I am using the Warrior Mundus Stone. Some of you guys may shit your pants when you see how low my natural recovery is, but trust me, it is plenty. You will see why, but there are ways to fix it if you are uncomfy with it. Let's go ahead and jump on into the sets here. This, if you guys have seen any of my past DK videos, my Stam DK videos, I mean, in the past year or so, it's not changed at all. Everything is the same here, so if you are familiar with the builds, you already know what to do. If you got the gear, you're good to go. However, there is one change that I'll talk about, and yeah, if you are new here, pay attention. We have the Vatashran Maul here on the back bar. I guess you would call this the back bar. I don't really consider either a front or back bar. It's kind of a mix-up. I go back and forth quite a lot, but we're going to call my 2H bar my back bar for the sake of argument here. It is Sharpened Maul. It has a weapon damage enchant, and if you guys don't know what this does, every time you use a stamina ability, you gain some weapon damage and spell damage, and build up a pretty decent AoE. Oh god, I'm dying. Proc. It's very nice. Very helpful. If you have the perfected version, by all means go ahead and use it, but I'm not going to fuck myself over to do that. You could, if you want to build full into corrosive, you could go with a sword and go Nirnhoned just to stack up a shit ton of weapon damage, but I do like the balance that having this gives me, so that way I do have some killing power outside of my corrosive in the event that I need it. Now, here on my sword and board bar, I have a Nirnhoned, a one-hander of agility. This is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It just gives you some max stamina and some weapon damage. Very simple, 3-piece set, easy to get, it's all over the place. If you want to shit out ultimates a little faster and be a little bit tankier, you could also stick the Potentate's 3-piece in this spot here. Very good. It'll make you, it'll help your sustain out quite a lot, make you a little tankier, and get you into corrosive faster. However, you are probably going to want to drop the sword and board ultimate, which I don't want to do. But yeah, that's an option. I just go for the more damage choice because it's more comfortable for me. On my shield, I am using the Shield of Daedric Trickery. Trickery is a pretty staple set for the Stam DK. In my opinion, I don't think I'll ever take it off unless they nerf the shit out of it or make something even better. Gives you health, stam, magicka, and then you get 1 of 5 random buffs here every couple of seconds. Those buffs are Major Protection, which makes you tankier, Major Mending, gives you bigger healing, Major Vitality, again, bigger healing, Major Expedition, great because we have no legs on this build whatsoever, and Major Heroism, that is the big one, that is going to get us into our corrosive faster, going to get us into our sustaining faster, all that good stuff, and that is the main reason this is such a good set for the DK. And I use poisons on it, we'll talk about those later. Now, when it comes to our monster set, obviously we're DK, we're using Bloodspawn, it's sturdy, we are doing 3 triglyphs on this build as well, just go ahead and say that on the big pieces. Now, Bloodspawn, if you don't know what it does, it gives us stamina recovery, which honestly to me feels like kind of a wasted stat. I don't need the recovery, but hey, it is there. And of course, when you take damage, you guys know what Bloodspawn does, gives you some armor, and it gives you some ultimate. Very good. DK's a baby boy right here. Then we do have the Daedric Trickery chest, heavy, reinforced. More Bloodspawn, more Trickery, more Trickery. Then I do have 1 piece of Trainee on here. It is just for that extra health bump. Trickery. And then we have 2 agility here. 2 jewelry, both infused with weapon damage. And then finally, I have my mythic. I am using Malakath's Band of Brutality. Now, I know some people are going to see this, and they're going to shit. They're going to scream at their screens because they farmed the Sea Serpent's necklace thing, right? Yeah. Totally fine and understandable. If you have that, use it instead. It's better. I just cannot be fucked to go and collect that right now. That is a lot of work that I don't want to put into it. But it is definitely better, especially considering we do have a little bit of crit here. Being able to hit some really fat, juicy crit whips will put you in a good place. But I don't have it. I don't want to go farm it. This is just as good in some ways. Not as good all in all, but definitely good. It's going to give you similar baseline damage. The main difference is that you can't benefit from crits here, but you can with the other one. And you don't get slowed down with this one. So I guess that's something to keep in mind too. But yeah, either of those will work, honestly. And that's it for the gear. Just real quick, all of my jewelry infused weapon damage. We are using a mixture of heavy and medium. You can go 5-1-1 if you want, but I don't see the light armor passives being that useful, as opposed to getting some extra weapon damage. I have run this build in 6 heavy, 1 medium. I have run this build in 5 medium, 2 heavy. I have settled on 3 heavy and 4 medium, and that's my comfort zone, but you guys can mix it up however you want to. Of course, stamina glyphs on the small pieces, triglyphs on the big pieces. Now, looking at the skills, we have Resolving Vigor, obviously, main heal over time, gives us an armor buff now, super awesome, dots deal less damage, so that means this is going to feel so much better as a heal, because before, You would use Vigor and your health would just stay where it was because of all the dots, but now with the dots being shittier and Vigor being just as good as ever, plus a little bit better, you actually see your health go back up. It's very nice. Now we have Flames of Oblivion on this bar as well. This is a great skill. I really, really love it. Let me buff my weapon damage just a little bit here. All we're going to do is throw the forward momentum up. This thing hits for just about 10k. When you're actually in combat, getting buffs and stuff, this thing will have somewhere between 10 to 11,000 damage tooltip. So it's pretty nice. It hits 3 different targets. It doesn't cost very much at all. Gives us a crit buff. And the most important thing is that it stacks up our Molten Whip, which we'll talk about when we get there. I am using Reverberating Bash. This is my favorite stun in the game. That is my phone buzzing. You can use this while you are on your sword and board bar, while you are defensive, you are tanking up. Someone's going full nuts to butts on you. Pop them in the nose real quick with one of these bad boys. Fully buffed. This thing is fucking crazy. We get up to probably 14, 15, maybe even 16k overall tooltip with this thing, and it really does fucking hurt. Then we have Coagulating Blood. Obviously, you guys know what this does if you play DK. This is our big boy burst heal. It costs a shit ton, but it's okay because we don't need to use it too often. The lower our health is, the bigger it heals us, and you can hit some really fat coags on this build. I've hit like a 17k coag crit. I'm sure I could do even higher if I paid attention, but super good. You want to use this. Then we have Molten Whip on the DK here. I've never been a huge fan of using Molten Whip, but with the tankiness of this patch, it definitely feels like a necessity. And it's just good. It's just fucking good, guys. It's just so damn good. It gives us additional weapon damage, it gives us a big burst ability, and we can use it on a sword and board bar. So we can be holding block, have this thing stacked all the way up, and hit someone for a quick 7k. They don't see it coming. Just rip their fucking teeth out while you're blocking with this thing. It's crazy. Everyone out in Cyrodiil is a fucking vampire, so this thing is going to do additional damage to them, and it's just a good time. Now, the synergy here is that we need to spam Flames of Oblivion to get our Molten Whip stacks up. Not a big deal. Again, this is a very cheap skill, and it hits decently hard. You don't have to aim it, you don't have to do anything, so I find myself swapping back and forth between Molten Whip and Flames of Oblivion for my offensive attacks, and, you know, just dumping the whip whenever it's fully stacked up. Sometimes I like to not dump the whip just to hold on to that extra 300 weapon damage that you get from stacking it up. Very effective way to play. Makes your heals bigger, all that good stuff. Your reverb hit harder, all that feels really nice. If you got a couple people on you all at the same time, you can spam this, hit them all. You can apply burning, that'll do a dot. It's nice. Trust me, guys, the synergy here on the sword and board bar is very good, especially because this is consistent damage, along with all of our other dots too. People start dying without even realizing they're dying. Then you come through with the reverb, with the fully stacked Molten Whip, and they're fucking dead. When it comes to my back bar ultimate, I am using Spell Wall because it is awesome. This helps you shut down snipers, any kind of ranged build, and it just makes you kind of an immovable object for 7 seconds, which is plenty of time to move from LOS to LOS typically. Sometimes it's not quite enough, but more often than not, this is plenty, and it is a much lower cost than Corrosive, so if you really need to use an ultimate for some sustain here on the DK, this is a good go-to if you are still building. Hopping on over to the front bar, pretty standard DK bar here. Forward momentum for the sake of using, this gives us immunity to snares and shit. You guys know how that works. Gives us brutality, all the good stuff. A little bit of recovery as well. Not a big deal to me, but hey, it is what it is. And it is for our Vatashran 2H. Noxious Breath, this is an AoE dot, as well as an AoE armor reduction. Very nice. You could replace this with a few different things, but I don't really want to, so I'm not going to. But I love Noxious Breath. It is also an AoE attack, which is great because we like AoE attacks around here. When you pop a Corrosive, you can spam this if you're on your 2H bar. It's pretty helpful. It'll hit everybody in front of you. So it also pulls Nightblades out of stealth if you hit them, so using this smart is very important on a DK. It doesn't just apply a dot. A lot of people think that, oh, the dot's not as good as it used to be, don't use it. No, it is a very good utility skill. Like I said, it hits decently hard on the initial hit. Obviously not ridiculously hard, but it's a little something. Without being fully buffed up, we're hitting just about 9k here. Very solid. especially when you consider on our 2H bar we have a lot more natural pen as well, and this applies a armor debuff too. It also, again, is the dot. You dot up everybody in one go. It is the cone, so you can hit people that are rolling, you can hit people that are going into stealth. It's a very good skill. I would never drop it because I love it. Then we have volatile armor. Again, another dot. Not a very good dot, mind you. Absolutely not at all. A very shit dot, to be honest. But it is a dot, so additional free damage. Plus, it is a damage return to people that hit us, which is very helpful, especially when we're in corrosive, because it counts as direct damage. So, very nice. And it can apply burning to people as well, just for hitting you. So, free damage yet again. We have Executioner, because we gotta put people down. Then we have Venomous Claw. Personally, this was nerfed along with all the other dots and the blanket nerfs they did. You know, ZeniMax, the way they do. But I actually kind of like it better now, to a degree, because it lasts so long. 24 seconds on the dot, up from 12 seconds, makes this a lot more manageable. Since it is a single target dot, it is riskier to use, so not having to keep this up on people as often, not having to micromanage this as much, has been very, very helpful for me in outnumbered situations, and the dot still does hit relatively hard, so it's worth slotting. I still like it very much. I'm not going to take it off. It's fun. And then, of course, for our offensive ultimate / defensive ultimate number 2, we have Corrosive. You guys know what this does. It makes your attacks go through all armor while making you tanky as shit. This is how we kill a lot of the tanky boys we find in Cyrodiil. Sometimes people are a little too much because we are not stacking a ridiculous amount of damage, but 9 times out of 10 this is just enough to bring down whoever we need to kill. Now, you could use Leap, you could use Dawnbreaker. Both of those are also good ultimates, and since we have more pen on the 2H bar, they're going to hit relatively hard, but Corrosive is just the way to go that I've found. In general, it's hard to compete with. If you do the thing that I mentioned before and you have Potentates on your Sword and Board bar, then you would put Corrosive back here, and then slot in one of these offensive ultimates here to have a little bit of fun, you know? Because this way, the Corrosive would come down to a cost of close to, I think 150-ish? It would be just about as much, just a little bit more than the spell wall would be. So it's going to be a lot more easy to use, a lot more easy access, get into it really frequently, so that you can use that as your defensive ultimate, and then still have a good burst ultimate on the front bar if you want to. It's just going to be at the expense of a little bit of damage. Not a whole bunch, but, you know, it's something to think about. But the way I like to play it is Spell Wall and Corrosive. However, having the offensive ultimate like Leap might be better off in the long run. Give it a shot, figure it out for yourself. Now that that's done, let's talk about champion points. I'm also going to rip a fat burp 1 second. Okay, that wasn't as fat as I was hoping, I'm sorry. I lied to you. So when it comes to blue CP slottables, we are using Focused Mending, 10% healing done. This helps to just alleviate the dot pressure even more so. This, with the fact that we're holding block constantly, all that good stuff makes dots basically pointless to be used against us. Unless there's 46 of them, then it's a problem. Then we are using Master at Arms and Deadly Aim for damage. This is for all of our important stuff. This is for our Reverb, for our Whip, for our Flames of Oblivion. That's going to be 12% extra damage there. And then I'm using Ironclad. This reduces our damage taken from direct damage attacks by 6%. So this covers everything basically that really matters. Frags, surprise attack, Dawnbreakers, jabs, subterranean assault. That's all of it right there. The only thing we're not mitigating with our CP is dots. But like I said, dots really aren't a problem for this build. Hopping on into the red CP, what I am using is Survival Instincts. This is absolutely vital to the build because I like to hold block a lot when there's a lot of people on me, and this is going to reduce our block cost by a fat 25% in most situations where we are outnumbered. So that is going to turn your sustain up a lot. So definitely use this. Then I am using Relentlessness. This gives us major protection for 3 seconds when we are stunned, reducing our damage taken. We do get major protection through Daedric Trickery, however, it's not always up, so I like to make sure that I have major protection as often as possible. If you don't feel like you need it, you can swap it out for any other red CP and still be just fine. Then we have Pain's Refuge, making us take less damage for the more negative effects we have on us. There are a lot of negative effects, especially outnumbered, so I use this, makes you very tanky, and then I'm actually using Juggernaut. This is not something I've seen a lot of people using lately, but I have really started liking it now, because when you compare Juggernaut to the blue CP used to outweigh it in damage reduction by a shit ton, right? It was 10% on everything, but now the blue CP have come down to a measly 6%, and that makes Juggernaut look a lot more viable, because this is 5% of literally all damage whenever you have CC immunity. When you are outnumbered, or hell, even just when you're fighting anyone in general, you're probably going to have CC immunity a majority of the time, because most people are going to stun you on cooldown. If there's 7 of them, you're definitely getting stunned on cooldown. So this is just an additional free 5% mitigation, basically minor protection. And when you combine that with Pain's Refuge, Relentlessness, that means that whenever you get stunned for those first 3 seconds, you have a 15% bonus mitigation. So it's very nice. However, if you don't want to use Relentlessness, like I said before, you can feel free to throw on the max health here, or Fortified, or if you want to move a little faster, you could do Celerity, wherever that is. It's not in here. Oh, yes, it is. It's right there. 10% extra movement speed could be nice. I don't really care. I just kind of tank up on the sword and board bar whole block. That's always pretty fun. You could even go for this one here. Sustain by suffering. Get a little bit of extra sustain. I don't think it's necessary, but you might. So if you need it, use it. And yeah, that's it for the CP. Last thing I want to talk about is Consumables. First and foremost, we are using Drain Health Poisons. This applies 2 different dots as well as 2 different hots to us, so this helps our survivability quite a bit. Anytime you light attack or bash, this will proc. You're going to be bash weaving a lot on this build if you really want to get into it. If you don't bash weave, you're kind of fucking yourself. Go back to a 2H front bar or dual wield front bar, but definitely just keep that in mind. Learn to bash weave if you want to play this build. You'll be way better off, trust me. But these are super important. They give us additional pressure as well as additional healing, help our survivability and our damage at the same time. Then when it comes to food, I am using Bewitched Sugar Skulls because I want as much max resources as possible. This gives us more damage and more health. Both of those things are very nice. But if you feel like the sustain that I have is not going to be enough for you, get yourself some Orzorgas. This is going to keep your health high and give you a good chunk of recovery for both Magicka and Stamina, so that way you don't feel like you have to heavy attack as much the way I do, or rely on ultimates as much the way I do, and you can just rely on recovery, if that is how you feel comfortable playing. If Orzorgas is too rich for your blood, you can grab Jewels of Misrule for basically the same effect, just slightly worse. When it comes to potions, the primary potion I use on this build is the Heroism Pot. This is an extremely expensive potion, but it is damn effective. It gives us max Magicka back, it gives us stamina back, and then it gives us minor heroism for the entire uptime of the potion. This helps us get those ultimates out, which is great for sustain, defense, and damage all at the same time. But these potions are fucking expensive. If you do not want to waste money on these potions, you can get away just using a regular tripod and you will be fine. But if you have the money to spend on heroism pots, use them and you will feel like a god. It's a small bonus. You don't notice it too much, but when you notice it, and you praise God for it. Then we have, of course, the typical stamina, health, and movability potion. These are pretty helpful for when you really need to get someone fucking dead and you don't want to be stunned while you're doing it. So you would, typically the way I would like to utilize these is I'm in an outnumbered situation. I will wait until I receive a stun, break that stun. Now I have 7 seconds of immunity. That's when I'm going to pop my corrosive, start chasing down whoever I need to chase down, wait until just about before my CC immunity has worn off, and use the essence of immovability, and now you get another 10 seconds. So you get just about 20 full seconds to focus on whoever you need to be focusing down. And it is so helpful, because everyone spams stuns, guys. Just keep some move pots on you. You won't regret it. Now, another potion that I like to keep on me at all times, again, kind of expensive because of one of the ingredients, but not anywhere near as expensive as these bad boys, is this specific detection potion. This gives us back stamina, gives us detection, and gives us CC immunity. This is great for chasing down those pesky Nightblades. Use it the same way you would use a regular movability potion, but this time the added caveat of no one being able to hide from you. And yeah, I would not like to go into Cyrodiil without any of these potions. I do keep tripods on me because, like I said, these are expensive and you don't always need them. I would hold out on these for those really, really serious fights where you're feeling your sustain being pushed and you feel like you need to go all in. And that is it for the build. Just a couple of quick tips here for how to play it, because I know not everyone is going to pick it up immediately. Basically, the boon to this build is that you are more or less a tank, right? We don't have a ridiculous amount of armor. Yes, that is true, but we do have about 30k with our Bloodspawn procced. And if you go more heavy, you can be sitting at about 33k, and that is a lot, okay? So the tankier you want to be, you can get there. You can move some points into health to be tankier, you can use more heavy to be tankier, whatever. But more or less, this is a tank build with damage. So what we want to do when we're in a fight, we do want to make sure we are managing our buffs at all times. That is the first and foremost thing. You want to make sure your forward momentum is up, you want to make sure your armor is up, and that is when you want to be on your sword and board bar. It's nice and safe here. Then, when you find an opening, you apply your dots, let these dots tick down. You are a tank. You don't need to worry about trying to pressure too hard. Those dots last a long time. So now, you're on your sword and board bar, you've got the dots ticking, you're staying alive, you're holding block. Now is the time for you to stack up your Molten Whip. You can cast this while blocking. This is going to hit 3 different people at the same time. It has a chance to apply another dot in the form of burning, and it's going to give you more weapon damage. A very big buff to your damage. And you are also going to want to keep in mind that you have the Vatashran stacks to worry about as well. That's not as big of a deal. That's more or less a background thing. You're going to get Vatashran stacks while applying your dots, and while vigoring, and every time you reverb someone as well. So the way that I usually like to execute my combos on this character is, again, when I already have my dots on somebody, that is my first priority. I'm going to watch my stacks. Okay? Right now, I have enough Vatashran stacks to get the proc, and I have all 3 of my whip stacks, so I'm getting a lot of free weapon damage from that. Yes? Yes. So, the way I like to engage my combo that I go to is I like to take advantage of the weapon damage that I have been gifted from all these procs, from all these stacks, and that is when I'm going to pop either my whip or my reverb, depending on the target and the amount of health they have. If they are very low health, I will typically go in for the reverb because I can get a quick follow-up on them. If they are at higher health, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to go for the whip first to try to whittle them down. Additionally, if the whip hits hard enough, that's when you go for the reverb, the execute, all the good stuff. So, you really do want to lead in with the heavy attack to get the big proc from the Vatashran. So heavy attack, whip, boom. You just burned everything now. You go for the reverb, and there you go. Or alternatively, you can do the reverb first, which will be pretty helpful as well, because it will get all the weapon damage bonuses. One thing that I do like to do is I'll do the reverb and then the medium weave into the whip there. That is going to make sure that you get as much damage as humanly possible on all of your attacks, because if you do not burn your stacks with a medium weave or a heavy attack with the reverb, then you get to hold on to those stacks for the follow-up whip, which will give you the most damage possible, okay? So, let's talk about using corrosive. Same thing applies, exact same combos, you're going to do it the same way. Nothing different, except you're going to be in corrosive. This is when you really, really want to focus up, because you've got 12 seconds, I believe it is, to get your damage out, okay? So make sure, dot the target, you've got your stacks, you're ready to go. Quickly pop the corrosive, here we come, reverb, medium weave, whip, there we go, big damage, follow up with another whip if they're not almost dead, execute them at low health, and just about no one is going to survive through that. Now, the micromanaging the stacks is kind of annoying, but you get used to it after a while, and it does not hurt your resources as much as you might think it does. It really is actually quite tame when you consider the fact that flames here doesn't cost much of anything. And that is really it, guys. That is how I like to play offensively on this build. Get the old reverb while you're blocking, and then the medium weave whip. That is the main combo right there. However, you know, it always depends on the situation. It's not always going to be perfect. You're not always going to be able to do it the same way, but that is the way that I like to do it, and the way I would consider the perfect combo right there. All the stacks, follow up. Simple. That's it. And with that, guys, that will finish up the video. That's all the information you need to play this build the way I do, or to mix it up and make it more your own. I hope you found this informative. Hope you found it educational. There are ways to make the build better, I'm sure. So if any of you guys think of anything, I'd like to know. Let me know down in the comments. It could be a fun conversation. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you have a great day. If you love me, you should follow me on Twitch and consider maybe becoming a YouTube channel member here. That'd be cool. Otherwise, I'm out of here. Love you guys. Mwah.
I could follow you around like talk that needs more. That you